I would let the girl from the Chaos storyline peg me.
So with Citadel Daymore being out for about a week now, I've honestly been enjoying it, and I've been trying to debate whether Terminus or Citadel is a better map. Now it's hard because they're both good maps, but I think it's pretty close in terms of where they rank. So today I kind of wanted to just go over that and really just see what's better by breaking down these maps into what makes them so great. So we're going to be looking at a few things, and I'm going to go over them one by one. But before we go into the details, let me just tell you what I'm going to be ranking them based off of. So first thing I want to look at is the innovation. Obviously, innovation is a big part of zombies as always. I also want to take into account innovation for the Dark Ether. So not necessarily for zombies as a whole, but everything from Cold War and on is what I want to look for mostly for innovation. Sure, I'm going to look at other things that innovated on, like that are completely new to zombies, but also what is new to Dark Ether. Next thing I want to look at is progression. Just how you progress through the map. How does it feel? Do you get powerful fast? Is it too fast? Is it too slow? Stuff like that. Getting the wonder weapons, pack-a-punching. Then I want to look at the map layout and the map design. Just how good is the layout? Does it flow pretty good? Is it too tight? Is it too small? Is it too big? We'll find out. Then I want to look at the atmosphere, because atmosphere is an extremely important part of zombies. It always has been ever since World at War. So I want to look into that. The main Easter egg is very important because, you know, a main Easter egg can make or break a map sometimes. The boss fight, which is separate from the main Easter egg only because I think boss fights can really define an Easter egg, but the steps leading up to the boss fight is what that Easter egg is, not necessarily the boss fight at the end. A great example I could give is Voyage of Despair. I really do not like the Voyage of Despair Easter egg. However, I really like the boss fight. It's probably one of my favorite. Then we're going to be looking at the wonder weapons. Obviously, we have the Beam Smasher and then the Elemental Swords, which both have some controversy about how good they are, and so we're going to go over both of those. Then we're going to look at replayability, just how replayable a map is, and then survival. For survival, we're just going to look at how good are these maps for survival. Can you get to high rounds on them? Are they too easy? Are they challenging? Are they too hard? Does the map give you what you need to survive? Does it hold your hand too much? All those things. And so yeah, that's what we're going to be looking at today. And so let's start from the top with innovation. When Terminus came out, there was a lot to see that was new, especially from a Dark Ether perspective. First of all, there's these boats which you can use to get from island to island, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of them. I think they're just kind of weird. Are they new to zombies? Sure, but I don't really like them that much. Like, sure, something could be innovative, and wow, they added a new boat, a new vehicle into zombies, but it doesn't really matter if it's just not good. And honestly, I think boats are just kind of like a lazy way. I would have much rather had the zip lines that went from island to island. However, on the better side, they gave us new traps, which are the tentacle traps, which kind of like suck up the zombies and grab them with the tentacles. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Shazul traps, but obviously different because it's tentacles and not the chains. And then there's the Void Cannon, which is a big cannon which sucks up all the zombies like it's a big Gersh device, and it also can suck you up too and teleport you, also like a Gersh device, which I think is pretty cool. I really like the trap overall. It's pretty fun, and it's in a really great spot too. I think the tentacle traps aren't in the greatest spots, but I will say I really like where the Void Cannon is because it's in like one of the best training spots. We were also introduced to the Amalgam, which is the boss zombie of this map, and honestly, I really do enjoy the Amalgam on Terminus, and I can explain. I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of the Amalgam, but personally, I really like him. I think he fits the map perfectly, especially if you're into storyline at all with, you know, Nathan, and that's the kind of experiments they were doing on people. But I also like him because he's pretty challenging to kill, and we really haven't had a challenging boss for a while. I'll give you this, sometimes he does just kind of feel like a bullet sponge, especially when you do the Nathan boss fight, but overall, I think he really does fit the map well. He kind of reminds me of like the Thrasher in a way, where he's like big and he can take a lot of bullets and he does a lot of damage, which he also will heal off of you, and he can heal off of other zombies, but he is kind of like a bullet sponge, and I don't know. I can understand why people wouldn't like him, but I think he fits the map. I don't like that he returned on Citadel, but I was okay with him on Terminus. That being said, they also introduced the vermin on this map, which are like the spider things, and honestly, I could do without them. I think they're just kind of annoying more than anything. Is it unique from getting hellhounds, or if they just brought back parasites and that was it? Yeah, sure, but I don't want to see them anymore. They were just cool for one map. I didn't like seeing them in Citadel again. They worked for Terminus, but even Terminus I was like kind of whatever. And they were in Liberty Falls, so that's 3 maps they're in. So let's get away from reusing bosses, because that's a big thing Treyarch likes doing now. Then probably my favorite innovation from Terminus has got to be when you fight Nathan, you free him from the chamber, and first of all, that's not a cutscene, but it opens up and then a boss comes out, which is very cool. And then there's a cutscene after you kill him, a moment where Maya has to, you know, kill her brother. I honestly think it's cool that we just got a mid-game cutscene. I really like it. Also, it reminds me a lot of Leviathan, like the custom zombies map. And the Leviathan mini-boss fight is really good. And so I really like to see this. This map reminds me a lot of Leviathan. I should say that. It really does. And it was great to see this inside of a Treyarch game. He is just an amalgam with more health, but I'm not gonna lie. He can be kind of challenging, and depending on if you go into it unprepared, you could die, because honestly he is pretty tanky, and it's not the most open space. A lot of the railings you have to run around are pretty tight, and you know, all the zombies you got to worry about too. So I like it. It's not the hardest boss in the world, it's not the easiest, but I think it works really well, and the cutscene is just great. And then the last thing we got in here is Melee Macchiato, which just I don't even want to talk about it. It's garbage. Get on to the next one. So for Citadel's innovation, we have a little bit less, but first off, let's start with the traps. It also introduced more traps, which were the oil traps, which are very unique. Never seen these in zombies before. And they drop on the zombies, and I believe you can light them on fire to make them do more damage, which is also very cool. I think they're in pretty good spots too, because you could train and then just drag them through there. And also it fits the map like perfectly, because that's a thing they did. They used to use like oil traps and stuff like that, so I really liked it. Very cool. And then we had the ring traps, which are basically like little rings of fire that you can activate, and your bullets do more damage when you're inside them. I also really like these because, I mean, it's literally Ring of Fire, but as a trap, which is a very cool and unique way, because we've never had a trap like that was used in that way. Most traps usually just kill it for you, but no, you stand in the trap and then you do more damage. It's a very cool trap idea. It's probably the most unique trap we've ever had in zombies. Then for Citadel's boss zombie, we got the Doppelgast. So the Doppelgast, I like even more than the Amalgam, because I don't think it necessarily fits Citadel perfectly, but I do like it as a boss because he's very different from what we've seen in a lot of boss zombies. A lot of time with boss zombies, they like to just make them bullet sponges that do a lot of damage, but they're really slow. But this one's kind of the opposite, where he's really fast and he doesn't have a lot of health, but he can do a lot of damage to you. And if you don't deal with him right away, you probably will die. Especially if you just try to ignore him, it really will end up with a down. He's pretty easy to take out too, so he's not even really annoying to deal with. If you have a sword, he's like 3 swings to kill for most of the game, and he's pretty weak overall. It really just does change up gameplay from having like all these like zombies which are fast on their own, but not fast enough where they can outrun you, but he can outrun you. And sure, when like 2 or 3 start spawning around, can it be a little annoying? Yeah, I guess. But I think it's a really fun boss, and it's very different from what we've seen in zombies, and it's much better than Manglers, because Manglers are just bullet sponges, and they're just annoying. I hate Manglers. I'm so happy we do not have them on Citadel. Then we have incantations, which are kind of a new concept for zombies, and definitely a new concept for the Dark Ether. That being the fact that we're getting the return of tacticals as some type of weapon that we're going to be able to use. And I thought this was going to be completely gone from zombies as a whole when Cold War came out, because, you know, we had equipment now and you could buy equipment. So I didn't honestly think we'd ever get this again, but I'm really happy to see that these are back. And I know that's not an innovation, but again, it is an innovation for the Dark Ether. And it's also an innovation because we've never really had something in zombies where it was like a kind of like a magic we're using as our tactical, and it does like a double pack-a-punch effect. And I honestly really like it. The best one I think right now is between the Shadow Rift one and the Lightmend. I've been using those the most. I don't really like the fire one, and I haven't used enough of the lightning, but from what I know, the lightning is basically just dead wire. But I do really like it, and I think it's really cool, and this means that in future maps we could definitely get more things like this, more tacticals, more lethals. We could get another Hell's Retriever or Hell's Redeemer or something like that, or maybe a Gersh device. I know we have Gersh devices, but you get my point. Like things that are unique to maps, maybe Matryoshka dolls. I would love to see more stuff like that come back. And then the last thing that innovated on Citadel was Vulture's Aid 2, which again, I know Vulture's Aid was on previous maps, but this is Vulture's Aid 2, which works a little differently. I like Vulture's Aid 2 a lot, honestly. It helps me with salvage, it helps me with armor, it helps me with ammo, and when you fully get all of the upgrades, I believe you can even get like a lot more ammo for wonder weapons, which is great for the ray gun, or if you're using the beam smasher, because it's going to be in the Wonder Fizz on Terminus, and I believe it's on Liberty Falls too, but I'm not too sure. And for innovation, I have to hand it to Citadel, just barely, and I know that Terminus technically brought more, but in terms of innovation that's actually good to me, I think Citadel was way better because it had the traps, it had the Doppelgast, Vulture's A2, and the incantations. It's a better boss, better perks, and the incantations are one of my favorite things they brought back so far. Well, with Terminus, while I do think some of the traps are better, like the Void Cannon is very good, and it's better than the other 2 traps on Citadel, they also brought back a Melee Macchiato, and they gave us Vermin. So, I mean, come on. And now on to progression. So for Terminus, Pack-a-Punch consists of just turning on 3 generators around the map, and then you just hold square and Pack-a-Punch, and then it's opened up. And for the Wonder Weapon, it can either just be crafted by doing that side Easter egg, or you could just get it from the box. It's pretty easy to set up on this map, and it feels a lot like Derice, where you gotta do 3 teleporters and then you get Pack-a-Punch. That's mostly what it feels like. I think it's okay. I think it's decent. I don't think it's anything crazy. Feels like a OG Black Ops 1 Zombies map. I like it. It's cool. Nothing crazy, but it's good. And then for Citadelle, Pack-a-Punch consists of killing a Doppelgast that's hiding in a crate and taking that Blood Ethereum, putting it back in the crate you got it from, and then it would turn into the Pack-a-Punch. And then for the Wonder Weapons, you have to obtain them by doing quests to unlock and upgrade them. Very similar to Origins, Derision Drag, or Ancient Evil. They're not too hard, and I think they're honestly pretty easy to do, but they're easy enough where you can get them all in a single game. They're not too OP to the point where when you get the sword, it feels like, oh, I can never die. I honestly really like it. It's very unique from what all the other maps have done. Like, for example, in Origins, you get the staff and it's very OP. You get it on DE, it's very OP. Get it on Ancient Evil, and they're also very OP. But with these swords, they're not very OP, but you have to actually know how to use them in order for them to be effective. And also for setting up on this map, there is the incantations, which I talked about earlier, but they're also done through a quest. Most things you're going to unlock this map, you're going to be doing quests. Obviously, the ray gun is on here, but the ray gun's not really what we're talking about, because ray gun is on every map. A lot of it is through quests. So if you're not a big fan of doing quests to get Wonder Weapons and you just want to hit the box, then maybe you're not going to like this one as much. But for me personally, I actually like when there's quests for Wonder Weapons. I think they're much more interesting and they're much more fun. The setup of zombies is probably my favorite part. So if I had to compare these two from progression, I would have to give it to Citadelle just because I think the quests are a little bit more fun to do than just, you know, turning on Pack-a-Punch and then getting the Wonder Weapon from the box or just doing a little side quest to craft it. The map layout of Terminus is a big circle with an underground and surrounding islands that you can use boats to get to. There's a lift and an elevator that can bring you up and down from the upstairs to the downstairs floor, or you could just dolphin dive off the edge. And honestly, Terminus's layout, I don't think it's anything crazy. It reminds me of a bigger version of The Machine, and I feel like that can be understandable on where I'm coming from with that. Just because, you know, there's the main area up top, and then there's the underground, which is like where all the crazy stuff was happening. And I feel like Terminus in a lot of ways is supposed to be like a D Machine too. Meanwhile, with Citadelle, it's like a circular village that goes in on itself, which also leads into the main castle area, which also has an underground area and has 2 different ways of fast travel, which can get you from across the map fast, because this map is very long, but it's very tight at the same time, but also smaller, which sounds weird when I say it, but the map is very lengthy and all the corridors and stuff are very tight because it is a castle. The only real place you want to be training is the spawn area, but the map is overall smaller. Like, the map feels extremely small, and because it's pretty small, but it has all these fast travels, it's amazing to get around. You have the cannon, which, you know, shoots you back to spawn, which is also just very cool, by the way. Then we have the portal, which is just, you know, a regular portal. We've seen this in like how many zombies maps now, but it's pretty good. And the map flow of Citadelle just seems way better when you're going through it compared to Terminus's. But with that being said, I don't think their layouts are better or worse than each other. I think their layouts are both pretty good. I think they're about the same, because while Terminus is a lot bigger and it has the boats, I don't really like the boats, but it also is very friendly to players overall, and anybody can kind of figure it out. Citadelle, it seems like it could kill you a lot easier, which I do like because I like map layouts being unique, but I also think a lot of people wouldn't be the biggest fan of it. So I think overall the layouts between these two are about the same, while they're both different and better in certain ways. I like Citadelle's and Terminus's about the same. The idea of an island prison is not new to zombies, with, you know, obviously Mob of the Dead being the first thing that comes to mind when I say that, but Terminus did that same thing with an island prison that's all the prisoners are being experimented on by, you know, the evil scientist people, you know, that kind of thing. I honestly really like the atmosphere for Terminus. It feels very dark and it's rainy, and, you know, you hear the waves and you feel very isolated on this map. That's what I really like. You feel extremely isolated when you're playing Terminus, and especially when I play solo, when I play this map, like, you really do feel like you're all alone, and there's a lot of things in this atmosphere that just feel really good. Like, being on that ship reminds me a lot of being on Voyage of Despair, because Voyage of Despair's atmosphere is great. It's amazing. I know it's just a smaller ship, but I really do like it. Like, you really do feel like you're out there all alone, and I really like it. It's really good. You could also see, like, people literally dying as you walk through the map, getting killed by zombies, which I think really adds to the atmosphere. A lot of the stuff looks recently abandoned because, you know, there was just people there until Peck came game, Peck and Maya. Like things like the bunks that are pretty clean. All the rooms look pretty clean, but obviously there are no more people. And the very few people you do see try to kill you, but I mean, they're like one bullet, so. And then in the underground area, we have the experiments. And while I do think the whole like, oh, people get experimented on in the lab thing is kind of overdone, I think it works pretty good on Terminus. I like seeing all the test tubes and you see like the zombies. Sometimes they'll like jump out at you, like they'll break through the test tubes and like kill you. I like it. It's interesting, it's different, and I think it was done pretty well. And it's definitely the best atmosphere that we had in all of Cold War. It's better than anything we've seen in Cold War in terms of atmosphere. Also on Terminus, being on this boat, it seems like there could be a story here where maybe a crew crashed here and then scientists living on the island could have taken these people and experimented on them, which is pretty dark, and that's what I love to see from zombies. Then on the other hand, we have Citadelle, which is an ancient castle, which again is not new to zombies really at all. But I also like Citadelle's atmosphere. While we've obviously had castles before, this is the first castle we've had that's bright and it's in the day. The skybox reminds me a lot of Firebase East because it's kind of like that orangey color, and there's a bunch of mountains surrounding it. So it's kind of funny how the first and second map remind me a lot of D Machine and Firebase Z. But you know, it's an ancient castle, so obviously it has that medieval feeling to it, with things like the 4 statues of the knights, with their swords obviously. There's the dungeons, which when you walk through it, feels like a real dungeon. It's very cool. You can see the corpses of people who look like they got burned alive. There's obviously experiments going on here too, especially just, I mean, look at Kraft. Like, he looks so cooked. Like, I remember the first time I saw this, I'm like, what happened to this guy? Like, I didn't even know he was in Vanguard at first. I found out after I played the map. But yeah, apparently this guy was in Vanguard and he used to look like this, and now he looks like this. So I don't know what happened to bro, but yeah, they did him dirty. I'm not gonna lie, because he looks cooked. That's another thing that's very similar to Firebase C, right? Like, there's a guy that you talk to being Croft, and Ravenov is on this map. So like, you're catching the theme there. There's like D Machine was Terminus. Now this is Firebase C. Is the next map gonna be like Maurid or Toten? Maybe, or maybe it'll be like Outbreak, which I pray it won't be. But for atmosphere, I also think they're both great. I think both of these atmospheres are extremely great, and I don't know, I think this one again comes down to preference because I like both of them about the same. They're so extremely close. It's really hard for me to choose because they're very different atmospheres, right? One's like an isolated, dark prison, but then on the other hand, it's like an ancient castle with like, you know, elemental swords and incantation, and so they're both very cool and they're both very different, and so it's hard to rank them against each other. So I think they're about the same. Terminus's main Easter egg was pretty fun, especially my first time playing it. It's a solid Easter egg overall, and it has a very rewarding boss fight. We're not talking about the boss fight here, but I do want to mention it is a very rewarding one. Obviously, there's the mid-game cutscene that we talked about earlier in the main Easter egg, which again is very cool, and it's very rewarding because I love cutscenes in zombies. They're always pretty good, especially Black Ops 6. Black Ops 6 has been extremely good with their cutscenes so far, especially like the Liberty Balls intro, Richtofen killing a zombie. That was like maybe one of the best like intros in zombies. It's really good. Even if it has nothing to do with the map, it is still very cool. Then you have the lockdown, which you have to go inside the boat, and there's like the little lockdown, and you know, you have to try to like kill all the zombies and then bring those little container things to go fix the map. I like the lockdown. It's decent, nothing crazy, but it's cool. Then there's the bomb step, and the bomb step, I do like it. I really like Gorod's bomb step. I don't think it's as good as Gorod's bomb step because way less stress. The only time this bomb step is difficult is when you do it for the first time, because on solo you can hold square and your progress will save, and also you can just use smoke grenades, which are very easy to get and they won't even see you, or you can use ether shroud. There's a lot of ways to avoid it, and honestly it's a very easy step to get past. From a first time experience of playing this map, that bomb step was very scary, and I did end up beating it first try, but it was very stressful when we were playing because we didn't really know where they were. We knew it was like in that underground area, but we couldn't find them, and obviously, you know, there's a bunch of zombies. It was our first run, so we were like around like 33 or something. We're dealing with these super sprinters, and you know, so I really liked it. It's definitely not as good as Gorod's bomb step. And I should also mention is the mid-game boss fight, which is Nathan, which can be very difficult if not set up properly, and I think it's a good challenge to have midway through, especially on an Easter egg where you don't really do much and it still feels like a Cold War Easter egg. It's definitely better. It's definitely my favorite Easter egg since Cold War, so I really like it. Overall, Terminus is a very solid Easter egg. Like, it's good. It's at least a B tier Easter egg. Then with Citadelle, I love Citadelle's Easter egg. Sure, it's not the greatest Easter egg of all time, don't get me wrong, but it feels like a traditional Easter egg that we know from Treyarch Zombies, and I love it. Everything in this Easter egg, like, you know, you need to get all the swords and the incantations, or you have to get the soul boxes with the elemental kills for the orb. I also like how there's things like you gotta go to these symbols and put them in a specific order, and you have to use these traps in a certain order. I know this isn't like game-breaking Easter egg, but this feels like a Treyarch Easter egg. This doesn't feel like Cold War did. Cold War had a very specific feeling to their Easter eggs that felt very easy, very vanilla. They didn't feel like Treyarch was making these Easter eggs, but I have to say with Citadel, it really feels like a Treyarch Easter egg. Like if this was an Easter egg in a Black Ops 1, 2, 3 map, I would believe it. I'd be like, wow, yeah, this is a decent Easter egg. Sure, is it short? Yeah, it is. Both Easter eggs, Terminus and Citadel, are both pretty short, but I really do enjoy it. It's a very good Easter egg. Now, I will say one thing that I think a lot of people won't be the biggest fan of is how you need to get all 4 swords to do it, and all 4 incantations, which I can understand, and I see where you're coming from. But the reason why I like it is because it's pretty easy to get those swords, so getting all 4 swords and incantations is probably how long it would take for you to get like 1 bow under Rise and Rack. So it's honestly pretty good. It's not like Origins where like, sure, you have to get all 4 staffs on Origins, but when you get all 4 staffs, it takes you like 50% of your game, and it's only the first step, and the rest of the Easter egg is very quick. I honestly really like this Easter egg. It's pretty good. Personally, I haven't tried it on solo yet, so I guess we'll see when I do that. But so far, what I experienced, I really do enjoy it. And overall, I have to give it to Citadel. I just think this main Easter egg is so much better. It's so much more fun than Terminus is. Terminus is very good, don't get me wrong. I definitely don't think it's bad, but Citadel's Easter egg is just so much better. And I really do hope that they continue with this kind of traditional Easter egg thing going for. And I hope in the next map, whether it's that Origins remake or it's, I don't know, 5 to 6, I don't know. I hope they keep it up because I really do enjoy these types of Easter eggs. Okay, so Patient 13 is the boss fight on Terminus. He genuinely might be in my top 5 best zombies bosses of all time. I really like him. He's definitely the best we've seen since Ancient Evil. He's really good. I actually really do enjoy him. He's very difficult. He's more difficult than the Guardian. His boss fight takes a lot longer. He has a wipe attack, which can insta-kill you if you don't pay attention. He also has his tongue attack, where he can eat you, which also will insta-down you. He's a lot more physically imposing, and the arena is much more difficult. Also, his backstory is so much better. If you don't know the backstory, basically, as we know, Nathan is Maya's brother, and he was getting experimented on. Basically, Patient 13 was a doctor that worked there, and he took pity on Nathan and tried to help him and tried not to do bad things to him. And then one day, when they found out that Nathan was being helped by him, Dr. Modi ended up making him a test subject, and then he turned into the big octopus guy. Also, this type of like Kraken water creature, again, feels a lot like Leviathan, and Leviathan is like one of my favorite custom zombie maps of all time. I really like it, and I'm really happy we got to see a boss like this in Call of Duty Zombies, especially from an official Treyarch map. This boss fight is like a 9 out of 10 for me. Like, it's so good. I do think there are some that are still better. Like, I still like the Gorod Easter egg boss fight better with Nikolai and the dragon. I still do like the Eye on Voyage a lot better, but I really do like Patient 13. He is easily one of my favorite boss fights of all time. And one thing you also have to take into account, my first run of this map of playing against Patient 13, I lost, and it was me and 2 other people. We died, and it was our first attempt, and then it took to our second attempt. In our second attempt, we almost died, and we were using chopper gunners, we were using everything, and it was a little bit easier with gobblegum and all that, don't get me wrong, but we still died. We still died a lot. We still had to keep reviving each other and working together. It's a very good boss fight, and I cannot recommend it enough. If you have not done the Terminus Easter egg yet, and you're a big fan of like cool boss fights, please do the Terminus Easter egg. Please do the boss fight. It's very good. It's very entertaining, and I really can't recommend it enough. Now for the Guardian, I don't like it as much, but I still do think it's very cool. I will say the Guardian looks a lot cooler, and his like little animation where he jumps out of the statue and then he like slams you and you get teleported. That arena that you go into is so much cooler. I like that the arena gets smaller over time with the lava rising, but my issue comes with when you do this Easter egg in co-op, he'll just go after one player. Since the way you got to defeat him is by shooting him in the back, it's very easy when he goes after one of your friends and then the rest of you can just shoot his back. It's extremely easy. I don't really like that it's that easy because it's a very cool looking boss fight. The boss arena is great. The boss looks great himself. However, he is pretty easy to deal with. And while I said the boss fight does get smaller over time, and you have a lot of room to just train all the zombies that are in there, so it's honestly pretty easy. You can die to him if you're not careful, don't get me wrong. He definitely does have some attacks that could down you if you're not paying attention, but overall he's not too hard to deal with. And compared to the Patient 13 boss fight, where it's very clear that if you're not paying attention, like you could die to the zombies from just training because there's a lot less space. While Citadel's boss fight arena is a lot cooler, Patient 13 is a lot more difficult and it's a lot more challenging, and I really do prefer challenging bosses that are fun over just really cool looking ones that aren't as challenging. So for this one, I think it's pretty obvious where I stand. Patient 13 is a much better boss fight overall. I really just, I can't see someone saying the Guardian is a better boss fight. I understand, like, he looks cooler, but if you're looking for a challenge, you gotta do the Patient 13. And I want to say this too. I know there's a lot of, like, easy ways to do it, like, oh, you can use the power drill on the Guardian and he gets, like, 2-shot or something like that, or you can just do a glitch with the Patient 13. Listen, I don't care about that. I'm talking about the actual way they're supposed to experience it. It's kind of like in Souls games, but, you know how there's people who will use things that will make the boss fights extremely easy? It's just like that. I don't like it like that. I like when I play it how it was intended to be played against. When I have decent guns, I don't have like, oh, this is the main way to do it and you can kill them in 2 shots, because that's lame. That's not how the boss was intended to be. We're talking about how the boss fight actually plays in an average session. And in that regard, Patient 13 is easily, by far, the better boss fight here. And now probably one of the most controversial parts of Black Ops 6 Zombies so far, that being the wonder weapons. So we have the Beam Smasher first up from Terminus, and the Beam Smasher, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think it's great. I think it's an okay wonder weapon, nothing crazy. It feels good, like it kills, it definitely does, but I do find myself a lot of times just using the ray gun because the ray gun is a lot better, or I'll just use regular guns. Maybe I'm not using it right, I'm not sure. I do think it is good, and I don't think it's horrible by any means, but I just do think there's better options. Like, why would you use the Beam Smasher when you have the ray gun? Also, I feel like it runs out of ammo very fast, but the thing is, it has more ammo than the elemental swords, but I still feel like it's pretty weak. But it does slow down zombies, and it can kill a lot. I think it's a very unique wonder weapon. We've never really seen anything like it, other than, I guess, the Ray K in a sense, because there's 2 fire modes. But I do like it, and I like when you shoot it and you have to reload, it does the little explosion effect. It's a cool wonder weapon. It's a very cool wonder weapon. But if we're being honest, there's something cooler, and that's the elemental swords. I mean, come on, like, they're literally elemental swords. Like, elemental swords just sound cooler than like it's a sound gun. And the elemental swords are better. First of all, you have the 4 different elemental options, that being void, light, fire, and lightning. The swords do infinite damage except for the lightning sword, I believe. I like all of them, to be honest. I think the lightning one is definitely the worst, and you could definitely still get kills with the lightning, but it's just definitely not as good as the rest. The swords also kill a lot faster than the Beam Smasher. Their charge attack takes a lot longer to get. However, overall, it's a lot better. And also, if you combine the elemental swords with melee macchiato with some upgrades, it's extremely good. I think you can go in a few different ways. Personally, I've been doing the faster swing or the vampiric extraction, which basically heals you every time you get a melee kill, which are both pretty good, honestly. But I just think overall, like, the elemental swords are really cool. They're used in the Easter egg way more. Like, the Beam Smasher in the Easter egg is barely even used. It's just used like one time to like get a card, and like you never use it again. The elemental swords are used to get kills, but they're also used to get the incantations. Like, you can't even get them if you don't have them upgraded. So I like the elemental swords a lot better, and so I have to give this once again to Citadel. And for replayability, I think they're both about the same. I think both these maps are extremely replayable, and I will come back to these maps all the time because I think they're both great. Unlike something like Liberty Falls, which I have not played since launch, and I really do not plan on it unless I decide to go grind camos, which at the time I have no plans on doing. Both maps have a lot of content, and I think that's really all I have to say about replayability. Both so similar anyways. I don't even think it's worth going over. And then for the last category we have is the survival aspect. So Terminus is much faster to set up on, and it doesn't require much to set up, and with it being very easy to set up on, and there being a lot of space to train, and everyone is able to spread out, it doesn't matter if you're playing with 1 player or 4 players, there's always space for you to train. It's a very good survival map. I think whether you are a hardcore player or a casual player, you can enjoy Terminus for being a survival map. Sure, the wonder weapon is not anything crazy, but the ray gun's always there, and the wonder weapon can be good if you just learn how to use it. For Citadel, it's definitely more challenging, especially with all the tight areas, and it takes a little bit longer to set up on, but I don't think it's too challenging to be considered like a blowout by Terminus. I think what makes up for it a lot is there's so much better of a weapon variety to make the map survival feel more unique, because Terminus really can just feel like a Kino Derice or something like that, or really any map that's come before it, but Citadel's, it feels a little bit more unique because you gotta get the elemental swords, which I guess you could say is similar to the Origins or DE. However, I really do like it. It's a very unique feeling for Citadel Survival where you have to use a melee weapon as the wonder weapon to survive. It's just very cool, and it's very different from anything we've seen from a wonder weapon at all. And no, I'm not talking about the Crystal Axe. Get it out of here. Also, co-op requires more teamwork because if you're in those like tight quarters, you always want to be protecting each other and stuff like that. So I really do like it. The only real training spot is spawn, which is clearly the best because there's so much space. And if you want to train, you got to go there. So it's really good for training when you go there. And because of that reason, it makes it a pretty good survival map. And so I think just barely Citadel wins in the survival category because I could load up Citadel and really not even have to go do any swords. I could just load up and pack a punch and it could be the same exact way Terminus is. However, Citadel just feels a lot better because there's just so much more uniqueness to this map that makes the survival feel unique and not feel like a generic survival map. So I really like it for that reason. I think it's just barely Citadel wins though. Maybe like by half a point. But I do still think Terminus and Citadel are both great survival maps. So what do I think is the better Call of Duty Zombies map? between Terminus, the island prison, or DLC 1, Citadelle de Mor, the medieval castle with the elemental swords. I think both are great, and we've gone over, I think, really make or break a zombies map, but I think there's only one that really deserves the win here, and that is Citadelle de Mor. I mean, I think you guys expected it from listening to my list, but I think it is just a better map overall. I mean, when we really just sit back and think about it. The main Easter egg is so much better than anything we've had since Ancient Evil, right? The atmosphere is great. Sure, Terminus is great as well, but I really do like it, and it's very fun. The innovation is slightly better on Citadelle, but the progression on Citadelle is way better, considering there's so much more for you to do, and it's a lot more fun and interactive compared to Terminus, which just feels like a keynote or totem. Also, the wonder weapons in this map just really are amazing to use, and I really do enjoy using them, and they really make Citadelle for me. And I know, in all fairness, this map did just come out, so I could be in that honeymoon phase where the map just comes out and you see it a lot better than it is, but honestly, I don't think so. I really just think it's a lot better. I really have to give credit, though, to Terminus where credit is due, because a lot of things Terminus does great. For example, the boss fight is literally one of my favorite of all time, and I love the boss fight. It's really good. Even the Easter egg is really good. I don't think it's as good as Citadel's, but it's still really good. The atmosphere is great. The layout is good. There's so much in Terminus that really made me get back into zombies, which I haven't been able to do for months. And I've been playing Black Ops 6 for the past 2 months straight, and I'm loving every minute of it. It's either between zombies, or I'm not gonna lie, I've doing my dark matter grind, which all I have left is the pistols to get dark matter, which is pretty cool, which would be really my first time ever going for dark matter, which is, you know, just shows how good this game actually has been for me, at least so far. I guess we'll see with the next DLC 2, 3, and 4 what I think, but for now, I honestly really like it, and Terminus really brought me back, so I have to give credit to Terminus, because Terminus really did get me back into the mode. But Citadelle is just, to me, slightly better. It's not even like by a lot, but I do think Citadelle is better. I really enjoyed it, and I'm probably going to continue playing it because it's honestly really fun. But yeah, that's basically all I got to say about this. If you enjoyed this, let me know. I might do some more of these versus things. I like doing them. They're pretty cool. I haven't really seen anyone talk about this yet. I see a lot of people talking about Citadelle as a whole map and just talking about a whole review about it. But I thought I would just compare the two, Terminus and Citadelle, and just see which one's better, because I've been seeing arguments on both sides on what to think. This is my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Let me see some discussions in the comments. Just talk about it, you know? Just tell me what you think's better. Maybe you think the progression on Terminus is better because it's more simple. Let me know. I want to hear it. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you're new, subscribe, like, and look what I found.